The General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, July 24th, suggest that Nina Reeves will make a big revelation, while Sam McCall will be remembered for her role in Scout Kane's life. Trina Robinson will also give out a double rejection. So here's what GH viewers can expect next. For starters, Elizabeth Baldwin will cross paths with Liesl Obrecht before Willow Tate and Drew Kane marry. Despite some tension between Liz and Obrecht following Britt Westbourne's death, Liesl appears to have a more optimistic view these days. Could this be because Liesl knows Britt is still alive? Time will tell, but Jason Morgan will continue to look for Britt's answers in the upcoming episodes. In the meantime, Trina will refuse to accept Kai Taylor back. Despite Kai's attempts to mend their broken relationship, Trina will reject him again because he prioritized Drew over her family. Speaking of Drew, he will meet with Alexis Davis and agree to do her a favor. During this pre-wedding conversation, Alexis may advocate for Scout Quartermain's stability, as well as a promise that Drew will be sensitive to Scout's recent loss of her mother. Scout will also be thinking about Sam during her conversation with Willow. Willow will be caught aback when Scout asks if she can call her mom, but Willow may believe the title belongs solely to Sam. It would be disrespectful if Willow attempted to take Sam's place. Willow intends to become Scout's stepmother, so she may explain that it can be unique and special in its own way. However, Willow and Drew's marriage may not take place because a significant secret is going to be revealed. When Portia Robinson forces Curtis Ashford to play his final card, he'll be ready to use Drew's previous romance with Nina against him. Meanwhile, Nina will lament to Ava Jerome about how horrible things have become. Willow has undergone a nasty makeover as a result of Drew's influence. Thus, Nina will feel compelled to make a change. Nina will make a dramatic announcement about ending Drew's grip over Willow, and she may want to confess her own previous passionate encounters. Ava may try to persuade Nina not to ruin her relationship with Willow, but it may be ineffective if Curtis is the one to break the scandal. Carly Spencer would then hope that since Jen Sidwell consented and Marco Rios was released, the danger has diminished. When Carly wants reassurance from Sonny Corinthos, he may offer to do whatever it takes to keep the people they care about safe. According to General Hospital spoilers, the situation may worsen now that Marco's life is no longer in danger. Sidwell isn't going to let this go, so we'll keep you updated on any revenge plots that may be brewing. General Hospital spoilers are here for Thursday, July 24th, 2025. In tomorrow's episode, Elizabeth Liz Baldwin will reunite with Liesl Obrecht. Meanwhile, Scout Kane has made a mommy request for Willow Tate. Nina Reeves will worry, and Portia Robinson will have a complete meltdown. Continue reading and let's discuss what's coming up on the ABC soap show. Willow Tate's heart-to-heart. Let us begin with Willow, who is preparing to marry Drew Kane. Willow's behavior appears to be deteriorating worse. Fans felt that the nurse was pursuing Daisy Gilmore Corinthos and gaslighting Sasha Gilmore Corbin. That turned out to be correct, but now Sasha and Daisy have vanished. Liesl noticed Willow's evil smirk. She also believes there is something dark inside Willow. I'm starting to wonder whether this dark Willow is a split personality. Perhaps Willow is thinking about her deceased twin sister. Regardless, Scout will have a heart-to-heart with Willow tomorrow before the wedding. Scout asks Willow if she should start calling her mommy. How will Willow respond? Liesl Obrecht's intel. Liesl informed Nina Reeves that it was time to end the relationship between Drew and Willow. When Nina confronted Drew about Sasha and Daisy, he appeared astonished. Drew has done a lot of slimy things, but even he may be concerned about Willow's darkness and extreme measures. In other news, Liesl will be reunited with Liz. Could Liz give Liesl an update on Willow's life since the leukemia miracle while they talk? Nina Reeves' desperation. Speaking of Nina, General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, July 24th indicate that she will become even more desperate to save her daughter. Drew and Nina still have a secret arrangement that Willow is unaware of. Nina may be rejected and disgraced by her own daughter, but if it saves Willow, it will be worthwhile. In fact, during tomorrow's performance, Nina will panic Ava Jerome. Could the two women come up with a plan to stop the Drillo wedding? On Thursday, July 24th, 2025, GH watchers will see Alexis Davis speak with Drew. Alexis will be primarily concerned about Scout. Drew, on the other hand, appears to be unaware of Willow's danger. Drew may be the villain, but so is his fiancée. Meanwhile, Trina Robinson maintains her position. This sounds like it's about kicking Kai Taylor out. Which narrative are you most looking forward to witnessing on Thursday, July 24th, 2025? Share your opinions in the comments area below. Remember to keep watching ABC soap operas to see what happens next. Nina had never been one to back down in a confrontation, especially when it came to family. Her actions frequently elicited wrath, concern, or adulation, depending on who was watching. But this time, her words didn't merely upset Port Charles, they divided it in two. Nina's dramatic declaration, made without regret or hesitation, astounded those closest to her. As she stood in the middle of the Metro Court lobby, her voice unwavering and her eyes wet with conviction, she made it clear. Sam McCall should be remembered not just as a former private investigator or Jason Morgan's ex, but also as a mother, a hero, and a woman who gave her life to protect others. Nina's spontaneous homage was not solely motivated by grief. It was based on shame, redemption, and possibly something more, envy. Sam's legacy had frequently been hidden by the towering shadows of the men in her life. Jason, Drew, Sonny, even Dante. People rarely mentioned Sam without instantly referring to one of them. But Nina, who was on the verge of her own metamorphosis, couldn't bear the thought of Sam becoming a forgotten footnote. The tension that spread over the room when she spoke her views was palpable. Carly stood nearby, jaw clenched, unsure whether she should intervene or let Nina continue. Alexis tightened her brows, waiting for the other shoe to drop, because Nina rarely spoke without consequences. But for once, there was no plot or manipulation. Just the unvarnished truth, exposed like a live wire. Nina had been unusually silent in the days before her declaration. Her attempts to mend relationships after the breakup with Sonny had generally failed. Willow's forgiveness had helped, but the rest of Port Charles took longer to forget. So when Nina learned of Sam's accident, she was stunned by her own anguish. She and Sam had never been particularly close, but Nina admired her. I envied her. And when she realized Sam might be gone forever, something inside her fractured. Sam's accident had been violent and quick, making the main page and sending shockwaves throughout town. Rumors circulated about whether she had been following a lead, or was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Some blamed mob retaliation, while others speculated about a larger conspiracy. Nina, however, was unconcerned about the technicalities. What mattered was that another strong, clever woman, one who fought for her children and never gave up in the face of danger, had died. No one was doing enough to protect her legacy, so Nina stepped forward. She started slowly, conversing with Alexis first. She suggested a larger public memorial rather than a private, family-only one. A celebration. A commemoration. At first, Alexis hesitated. She was familiar with Nina's notoriety, but when she looked into her eyes, she noticed something different. Something genuine. After much deliberation, Alexis agreed to let Nina help organize something. It would be held at the Metro Courthouse. Olivia quickly approved it. She was aware of the public relations importance, but she also recognized the emotional significance. Sam meant something to everyone. However, Nina felt that simply planning an event was insufficient. She wanted people to remember Sam beyond flowers and speeches. She started collecting stories, interviewing those Sam had impacted. Spinelli recalled how Sam had saved him from despair. Elizabeth mentioned Sam's quiet strength during Jake's medical crisis. Even Carly, though hesitant, recognized that Sam had showed courage and compassion, particularly toward the children. Nina documented everything. She intended to publish it in Crimson. Not a puff piece but an honest, gritty look at Sam's life, her challenges, triumphs, and sacrifices. Nina's ambitions were not solely for her own benefit. This was different, and it showed. Her eyes no longer shone with defiance or smugness, but with grief, gratitude, and something more profound, comprehension. Perhaps she recognized elements of herself in Sam. Two ladies committed errors, loved foolishly, and paid the consequences. Perhaps in honoring Sam, Nina was attempting to redeem a part of herself that had gone too far too many times. The Metro Court's rooftop was renovated on the Memorial Day. Twinkling lights, soothing music, and images of Sam adorned the sidewalk. Guests arrived slowly, some dressed in black, some in hues Sam once adored. Scout grasped Danny's hand tightly, eyes wide and perplexed. Dante stayed close to the children, his anguish barely contained by obligation. Jason stood in the back, silent as usual, yet his presence alone anchored the crowd. Nina took the podium not as Crimson's editor-in-chief, Sunny's ex-wife, or Willow's mother-in-law. She spoke simply as someone who admired Sam. Her voice cracked as she remembered the first time she saw her, not in the headlines or the courtrooms, but as a mother defending her child. She discussed the time Sam battled a shooter outside GH. She risked her life to protect a stranger. The resilience and quiet bravery. Many of those who had previously questioned Nina's motivations were moved to tears when she spoke. Carly lowered her gaze. Alexis wiped her cheeks discreetly. Even Ava, who is normally dubious, nodded in mute agreement. Nina wasn't doing it for show. She meant every word. The stories Nina gathered were featured in a printed booklet distributed to all attendees. McCall. A life in her words, and theirs included quotes, photos, and memories from those who adored Sam, despised her, and simply respected her. It was painfully honest. Not sanitized. Not polished. But real. And it was just what Sam would have wanted. People stayed for longer than planned following the memorial. They shared recollections. Laughed. Cried. Some people forgave each other. Others began fresh talks. Nina watched from a distance, her palm resting delicately on the edge of a table, absorbing the weight of the situation. She did not need to be thanked. She did not even want to be recognized. What she wanted and needed was for Sam to be remembered for more than the men she loved or the cases she solved. Later that night, Nina sat alone in her office, the memorial book open in front of her. She smiled as she touched Sam's photo, which showed Scout on her lap. Nina allowed herself to cry for the first time in weeks, this time out of love rather than guilt or fear. Sam had deserved better. In life she had been overlooked. Nina vowed in death that she would not be forgotten. In the next weeks, Crimson's tribute issue became one of the most talked about issues in the magazine's history. It was completely sold out within hours. But the numbers were not the only thing that mattered. It was how they reacted. Women from Port Charles wrote in, stating they recognized themselves in Sam's story, that they had discovered courage in her shortcomings and hope in her resilience. Nina took each letter personally. She provided some of her own answers. She even started working on a second issue, this time focusing on Port Charles women who, like Sam, had left their mark on the town in subtle yet profound ways. She met with Maxie, Anna, Jordan, and Monica. What began as a tribute to one woman gradually evolved into a movement of remembrance and recognition. Nina also discovered healing via movement. Some individuals still doubted her. She still whispers about having an angle. But Nina didn't care. She felt confident her heart was in the right place. She had reconciled with the ghosts of her past, and utilized them to commemorate someone important. Not because it wiped away her mistakes, but because it was the proper thing to do. Sam McCall had been many things: wild, loving, headstrong, and brave. She had burnt and rebuilt bridges. She had turned opponents into allies. She had fought tirelessly for her family, children, and values. Nina has now been remembered as a result of her daring declaration. Not as a cautionary story. Not as an add-on to someone else's story. But as a lady who lived fiercely and died on purpose. And in Port Charles, where memories fade quickly and loyalties shift even faster, that was no minor feat. Nina's world was collapsing by the second. Everything she had worked so hard to keep was crumbling right beneath her feet. Panic crept up her throat as she realized her carefully woven web of falsehoods might finally be uncovered. She paced the length of her hotel suite, glancing anxiously at her phone, hoping it would stay silent. But silence no longer meant safety. It was the breath before a scream. She had lied to protect herself, but also to protect her daughter, marriage, and reputation in Port Charles. Each of those objects was now perched on the verge of a crumbling precipice. She had no clue how long she had been pacing when the door flew open and Liesl Albrecht stepped in. Her countenance enigmatic but her eyes wild with intent. Nina froze, her hands quivering slightly as she struggled to remain calm. Liesl didn't make small talk. She dropped the bomb right there. Her voice cool and cutting, her words deliberate. I know what you did. And I will not allow you to destroy everything again. Nina's reality shifted as she battled to keep her knees from buckling. Her aunt was aware. She knew. The secret, which she had buried so deeply that even Sunny hadn't discovered it, was now in the hands of a lady who had never hesitated to wield power when it served her. I had no choice, Nina mumbled, more to herself than to Liesel, but her aunt remained unmoved. You always have a choice, she responded. But yours was cowardice. The confrontation reopened scars Nina had thought were healed. It was no longer only the SEC report or what she had done to Carly and Drew. It went much deeper. It was a pattern, a constant need to lie first and explain later. Liesel witnessed it, and so does Sonny now. He'd been colder, more distant, not downright accusing but filled with displeasure. Nina dreaded his unspoken words more than anything he had uttered. While Nina's world collapsed, another started to burn. Portia stood in the hospital hallway, her hands locked into fists, struggling to keep herself together. Curtis was in recovery, physically present but emotionally unavailable. Her daughter, Trina, was pulling away, and Portia could feel the distance between them growing by the day. What began as a few furious arguments had grown into a dense, suffocating stillness that was impossible to escape. She had not intended for things to go this way. She had always strived to be a decent mother, a devoted wife, and a diligent physician. But life had dealt her one terrible circumstance after another, and she had failed more than time. Her breakdown came unexpectedly. She was one moment examining charts and the next she was in a supply closet, gasping for air and clutching her chest. The pressure was too much. She tried to be strong for too long. The dam cracked, and the tears flowed quickly and furiously. She didn't notice Elizabeth knocking on the door until the nurse opened it and found her collapsed on the floor. Elizabeth did not ask any questions. She knelt alongside her, grasped her hand and simply sat in silence. When Portia eventually spoke, it was in whispers, more confession than statement. I'm not sure how to remedy this. I believe I have lost my family. Meanwhile, in another section of Port Charles, Scout was experiencing a different type of sorrow. The small girl sat peacefully on the window seat of Sam's apartment, knees tucked to her chest. She had been quieter than normal, her typical chatter muffled by a melancholy that even her mother could not understand. Jason's absence had created a gap, but Drew's emotional detachment was more severe. He changed. Scout felt like a storm cloud was following her, heavy and dark. He stopped smiling so much. He arrived home late. He avoided making eye contact. Worst of all, he didn't actually see her. Scout entered the living room one night as Sam was folding clothes and took out her journal. She said nothing. She simply wrote. The following morning, Sam discovered it on the kitchen table. Inside was a little note scribbled in sloppy handwriting. I just want Daddy to be happy again. I miss when he laughed. Sam's heart broke as she read it. She knew there was something wrong, but seeing it through Scout's eyes wounded worse than anything else could. She contacted Drew the same afternoon, her voice harsh but forceful. You need to talk to her, she said. This is not about us. This is about her. She's in pain, Drew. Back in the Metro Court, Nina poured herself a drink with unsteady hands. Liesel had left, but her words resonated like thunder. She stared at herself in the mirror, her eyes red and her hair disheveled. Who had she become? This was not the woman she wished to be. She had spent her entire life searching for redemption, and now she was back where she started. Sonny hadn't arrived home last night. She tried calling him 3 times. No response. He was never unreachable till now. Her phone vibrated. Ava sent me a message, we need to chat. This is about Sonny. Panic rose again. What happens now? Ava rarely communicated unless it was urgent, or deadly. Nina dashed up to meet her, her heart racing with fear of what she may discover. When Ava arrived, she did not mince words. He knows Nina. He hasn't said anything but he understands. And he's furious. Nina slumped into a chair, hands covering her mouth. It was happening. The reckoning. She wanted to scream, but the air had escaped her lungs. What should I do? She whispered. Ava gazed at her with pity rather than sympathy. Tell the truth. Before someone else does it for you. Meanwhile, Portia returned to work with a hollow stare. She was physically present, but her mind was in a frenzy. Curtis had canceled another therapy session. Trina had not returned her call. She was moving through the motions but the walls were closing in. That night, she came home to an empty house. She sank into the couch, the silence too loud. She finally took out her phone and contacted Stella. She needed anyone to make her feel like herself again. Stella, she began when the phone rang. I think I've made a mess I can't fix. Scout, oblivious to the adult dramas going on around her, waited quietly on her bed, hoping Drew would show up tonight. She had put the notebook on her desk, hoping he would find it. She even chose her favorite book, hoping he'd read to her as he used to. But the clock ticked past 8 and then 9. No one knocked on the door. There are no footsteps in the hallway. Just silent. Sam looked in and found her curled up, eyes wide open but speechless. She climbed in alongside her, embracing her. He loves you, Sam whispered. Scout remained silent for a while before saying, he's just having a hard time. Then she muttered, but why does it feel like he's forgotten me? The question remained in the darkness. Drew stood outside the door to Sam's apartment. He had read the note earlier that day, and it had broken something within him. He'd been too preoccupied with work, his own guilt and everything. But now he stood still, unsure what to say. Could he fix it? Could he be Scout's missing father figure? He never knocked. He turned away and returned to the elevator, leaving the apology unanswered. Nina, left to her own devices, eventually made a decision. She would go see Sonny. Not with excuses. Not using rationalizations. Just the truth. All of it. She owed him so much. She walked to the penthouse, hands clasped, heart in her throat. The door was unlocked. Inside, Sonny sat quietly, a drink in his hand. He did not look up when she walked in. I know you know, she added quietly. He nodded once. Still silence. I did it. I turned them in. Carly and Drew. I thought I was protecting us, but I was actually protecting myself. And I apologize. I'm very sorry. He finally looked up, his eyes unreadable. It's not just about them, he explained. It is about trust. And I'm not sure whether we have it anymore. Nina felt tears pour. She did not try to stop them. Portia sat alone, staring at a picture of herself and Curtis. She grabbed up her phone and started typing a message. I miss you. I want to repair this. But she never clicked send. She simply looked, her thumb hovering. Scout was deep asleep and had no idea her father was present. But she had a dream that he had come in, held her, and assured her that everything was fine. And Liesel? She stood in the shadows watching everything unfold, knowing her role wasn't done yet. She dropped one bomb. There was more to come.